Cambridge English. This recording is copyright. CD 1. Test 1.
You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1 on page 2 of your question booklet. Section 1. You will hear a woman phoning to make a theatre booking. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4 on page 2. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Good morning, Cornmarket Theatre.
Oh, good morning. I'd like to ask about making a booking for the performance of Pirates.
The woman would like to make a booking for the performance of Pirates, so Pirates has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning, Cornmarket Theatre.
Oh, good morning. I'd like to ask about making a booking for the performance of Pirates.
Yes, of course. What day?
I'd like to make a booking for the afternoon performance on December the 8th.
I'll just check on the computer. Good news, you're booking well ahead of time, so there are lots of seats available for that performance.
Great.
Now, if I can just start by taking a few details.
Yes, of course.
What's your name, please?
It's Fenella Bittens. Bittens.
Now, can I take a contact number?
It's 07796 892 326.
Lovely. So, how many tickets would you like?
20, please.
So, that's a group booking?
Does that mean I get a discount?
Yes. Are they all for adults?
Actually, only 3 are adults.
Right, so you get a discount of 10% on those tickets, which makes it £23 per person. All the tickets are the same price wherever you sit.
And the rest are all under 16.
OK, so instead of £15 per person, that'll be £12.50.
Oh, that's good.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10 on page 2. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Would you like to sit in the stalls?
I'd prefer the circle, if that's possible.
Well, I can give you 20 more or less together, really nice seats on the middle row.
No, I think we'd need to be right at the back, actually.
That's no problem. There are plenty of seats there.
That's good, because we have one child who's a wheelchair user.
Right. Well, we have very good arrangements for our disabled customers.
Well, the main thing is we want to be able to get to the lift easily.
That won't be any problem. I'll put you in for more or less the whole row.
Good. Now, would it be possible to pay for the tickets by credit card?
No problem. Do you want me to send you the tickets or pick them up from the box office at the theatre?
Parking's so difficult near the theatre in the daytime.
Well, we've now got an arrangement that you can pick up tickets in the library.
That sounds good.
Fine. I'll make a note that you'll do that.
Great. Now, I read in a brochure that you can also order theatre meals.
That's right. With such a large party, it's probably a good idea if you order what you want in advance.
Well, I've got a good idea about what everyone would like. Could you put me through to the cafe?
Well, if you want, I can take down the order now.
That'd be great. Thanks.
No problem.
Well, we've got a few children in the group who are vegetarian.
OK, I'll make a note of that.
And I wanted to check if you do any hot dishes, like pasta, for example.
I'm afraid not, but we do have pizzas, though.
Even better. Let's go for those for all of us. Cheese and tomato.
Fine. And what would everyone like to drink?
That is the end of Section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 2 on page 3.
Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You will hear a radio program about singing in a choir. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15. And for our regular spot on things to do in town, here's our reporter Samuel Cooper. It's been fun to write about joining some of our local choirs.
Thank you. Well, feeling a bit apprehensive about my ability to sing in tune, I recently headed off for rehearsals at the town's 3 biggest choirs: Mitchell's Town Choir, the Black Bell Male Voice Choir, and the Caroline Singers. I received a very warm welcome at all 3 choirs. They are always on the lookout for new and enthusiastic singers. Now, obviously deciding which choir to join will depend to some extent on your taste in music. Black Bell caters for most musical taste as it has a hugely varied repertoire, as does Mitchellstown. If you're after a more classical feel, the Caroline Singers tend to focus on madrigals, that's unaccompanied singing without any instruments. If you want to meet people who share an interest in music, Mitchell's Town Choir is a good place to start. Apart from their own performances, they also arrange group visits to see operas and attend music festivals. So it can be a great way to make friends. But it's not just a chance to develop a skill, travel, or make friends that's on offer. You could win a gold medal, too. Mitchellstown are hoping to get to the final at the Melody competition in Atlanta. And Black Bell are the current holders of the Countermale Voice Choir Award, which was presented to them by the director of the London Opera just last month. You can also be a part of a recording deal. Mitchellstown has just joined Black Bell and Caroline Singers as recording artists for their first CD, due in shops in December. And if all of that isn't enough, you can also benefit the local community by helping to raise funds for good causes. Mitchellstown regularly performs at functions helping the disabled and the elderly, while Black Bell donates a percentage of its profits to certain local charities.
Before you hear the rest of the program, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
You may feel unable to join a choir because you're worried you'd struggle to find the time to attend rehearsals because of work or family commitments. Well, there is a solution to that. Start your own choir at work. This has been done in companies large and small, and I went to find out about the one at the accountant's John White. The choir's organizer, Elizabeth Arnold, told me the reason she thinks people like the choir. She said that while the thought of a big networking opportunities might be at the back of some people's mind, it's having the opportunity to switch off and focus on something completely different, that they're after. The people that join tend to be fairly competent singers to start with because, naturally enough, people don't want to look bad in front of their colleagues. Companies like John White encourage their employees to set up choirs at work because it can help to create a healthier working atmosphere. For example, people who previously didn't get on can find they have something in common, which is just common sense, really. Elizabeth Arnold also stresses that you don't need a lot of people to get the choir off the ground. They started off 4 years ago with just 5 people. That's now risen to 19, while their average attendance at rehearsals is 12. Many people don't have time to go to rehearsals outside work. However, they find the time to go to them while they're at work. At John White, they found the middle of the day works best because not everyone works the same hours. So, scheduling early morning rehearsals can be problematic. The same is true for late afternoon. Supporting their choir is something that John White are very happy to do. Although members pay a joining fee to cover the cost of refreshments at parties and wear special concert shirts, the company organizes regular sessions with a professional vocal coach free of charge to members of the choir. So, if you'd like more information about the choirs...
That is the end of Section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear 2 students called Eva and Mike discussing their research project on tourism. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Eva. Is this a good time for us to look at our research project? Our tutor told us to keep the focus narrow. So what about we go for why people choose to go to certain places and attractions and leave the rest out?
You're right. Otherwise, we'll have far too much information to cope with. Okay, so what about the survey?
Well, I've looked through the ideas we had for questions for it, and I think it's not clear how we use the word area. Sometimes it seems to mean a place, other times the field of our research, and even tourist attraction in some cases.
Oh, I think that's my fault. I typed out our notes.
Oh, it's probably best to use it for place in the sense of province or whatever.
Yes, I think so. You know, we decided to concentrate on culture and tourism. I wonder if we're really saying culture in the same way as most people do, because on our list of places to carry out our surveys, I see you've put the Round Music Festival, which is contemporary music. I thought we were going to be looking at more traditional forms of culture.
That would be confirming these old-fashioned ideas that culture has to be something that's at least 100 years old.
But that is what most people think.
Well, let's not get into an argument about that right now. Let's think about the number of completed questionnaires we need. In total, how many questionnaires do you think we have to get? 100? 200? And over how many different events?
Our tutor said we should have at least 200. Otherwise, the information won't actually mean that much. And I think it's not practical to try to go to more than about 5 events. We've got to get the first draft in by the end of February.
And do you think we should interview everybody or just tourists?
Because presumably there'd be local people, domestic tourists, and international tourists at some events.
In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think we should just go for the tourists, but from overseas as well as national. I'm sure we'd be able to provide more interesting results if we did that.
Right.
There's one thing that worries me, though.
What's that?
We said it's important to get some background on the people who answer our questions, like what's their job, what they thought about the event. But the idea of asking people how old they are…
We can't just ask them to tick a box with an age in it and tell them they don't have to do it if they don't want to. We could write in our own estimate when we've finished.
Are you sure that would be okay?
Yes, it's not the most crucial piece of information they're giving. We're going to have a lot of facts and figures to present. Have you any preference for putting them into a pie chart, a table, or a graph?
Tables are easy to do, but I read that most people find pie charts visually stimulating. I hate reading graphs because, unless they're quite big, you don't get exact figures.
Pie chart sounds good. How are we going to divide up the work?
If it's okay with you, I'd like us to meet as often as possible to look at what we've each written up. But we should do the actual writing on our own.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Okay, would this be a good time to discuss our introduction? An overview of tourism around the world, looking at different tourist attractions in different countries. But there are so many to choose from, though, so let's narrow it down.
Absolutely.
I found out that Mexico celebrates the fact that it produces a huge number of varieties of chilies, and people flock to this special event to taste dishes using them. A lot of people think of Mexico as being the best place to see fantastic museums. That's true, but let's take a different tact. What about Greece, one of the world's most famous countries for tourists?
Yes, and I think we should go for the ruins in this case. The temples and theaters and so on, rather than the food.
And for Britain, instead of focusing on the countryside and parks, I'd like to find out more about why people go to see plays and musicals. Is it because there's such a good choice?
Interesting point. And for India, instead of concentrating on the temples or the game parks, we could mention all the different folk dances. Every region has its own, and they don't just perform them at festivals. They're part of everyday life.
Okay, we've got more than enough. Let's draft the introduction.
That is the end of Part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
I'm a past student of this university, and I'm joining some others on this career day to tell you about my job, as it may be something you've never thought of doing. I'm a patent attorney. Some of you probably know what that is, but for those of you that don't, I'll explain. If someone has a new idea or invention, they can ask for a patent. It gives the owner the right to stop other people from using that invention. A patent is granted by the government to inventors, or more usually these days to a company. It is for a certain time period, usually a maximum of 20 years. So during that period, that idea or invention cannot be claimed to have been invented by someone else. The likelihood of getting a patent is dependent on whether the invention is original or not. This is the crucial factor. It will be looked at by a patent examiner, and my job is to convince the examiner that the invention is not just an adjustment to something which already exists. In order to get the patent, we need to produce a full description of the invention. It's really important to get the details right. Most of you are scientists, and the basic requirement of the job is a solid academic background. Often people have studied chemistry or, alternatively, engineering. Because of the nature of the work, this is a crucial starting point. You need to be able to understand how the inventions have come about. On top of that, employers are looking for particular kinds of people. They want employees who have excellent communication skills. So you can talk to inventors in terms that they can understand and also ask the right questions. These aren't necessarily skills you're taught at university. This is an international business, as are most nowadays, and it's very convenient to be able to read documents without having to call for translations. So, if you can understand a foreign language, that's a great asset. You might think it sounds a bit boring from what I've said, but it really isn't. There are lots of advantages to the job. It's extremely interesting for a start. For example, I feel I use a range of expertise. I'm not just a scientist, not just a lawyer, but a mixture of the two. Although it takes quite a long time to qualify as a patent attorney, anything from 4 to 6 years, after that, you can earn a high salary which compares very well with other similar professions. There are some disadvantages, of course. It can be rather lonely as you tend to sit in front of a computer for most of the day. Even if you have colleagues, you will all be working separately. And there isn't very much flexibility with location. Almost all vacancies for trainees are city-based. So if that doesn't appeal to you, you might want to think again. You do get to travel a bit to meetings with clients. And there are also visits to court. So what kind of organization might you end up working in? Well, many people work in industrial companies. The big ones have their own patent departments. The kind of product you might work with there will range from food to heavy equipment, from biotechnology to the car industry. Basically, any organization where significant time and money is put into research and development to get ahead of the market. There are also many private practices, and some of these will have areas of special interest. Finally, it's possible to get a job in various government offices. In those departments, you'll probably be looking at applications for patents and making decisions about them. I really love my job, so I hope I've persuaded a few of you that it's worth thinking about. If anyone wants to come and ask questions, I'm happy to answer them.